Hello and welcome back to the Real Shipping Forum. We're delighted to have all of you today. My name is Desmond and I'll be a moderator for this session. I wish to thank all of you for taking the time to join me and Faith as we create and share materials online with Padlet and Skitch. Now, before we start, let me introduce our session's presenter. Faith Marcel teaches English for academic preparation at Niagara College and serves as an online curriculum developer and teacher trainer for Colleges Ontario. She holds an MA in Linguistics from Brock University and is currently a PhD student in Language and Literacies Education in the Collaborative Knowledge Media Design program at OISE, University of Toronto. Without further ado, Faith, the floor is now all yours.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on creating and sharing teaching learning materials with Padlet and Skitch. So I'm very excited to be here today for our second annual Realize conference, and thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday afternoons where you could be, out doing something else to join us, really, and to be with us here today for the presentation. Really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to attend our keynote speaker, Nikos Dasakis' presentation. For those of you who might have also been in his presentation just before this one. Hard to follow, but such a pleasure to have attended. It was so inspiring, and I could see there were really a lot of connections for not only using the tools we're going to have a look at today, but also for other technology tools that we're sort of learning about and looking at here at the Realize conference this weekend. So very, very interesting and inspiring and lots to think about. So for today, I would like to, in our presentation, we've got a few different things planned than I might normally try. So if you can bear with me with some of the technology, hopefully it will work for us, and we'll be able to try out both Padlet and Skitch today. If you have either your computer or any mobile device with you, you'll be able to give this a try. So first of all, before I start, is everyone able to hear me okay? And see the webcam is fine? Yes? Fantastic. Okay. Great. So in the effort to make this presentation as interactive as possible, I'm going to try a few different things. There is one way that we can sort of ask you questions and engage from our group some answers to those questions. So there's a little hand icon just on the left below all of our names. And maybe we'll test this out just by first asking how many of you have heard about the application Padlet, just to start. So to answer that question, you can just click on the little hand icon, and that will raise your hand to show that that's sort of indicating yes, you have. Oh, wow, lots of hands so far. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, lots of people already have. Wow, fantastic. Okay, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, about 8. Fantastic. And how about Skitch? Okay, a few less for Skitch. Interesting. Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad that we have some people here who have either heard of it or perhaps even had a chance to use it. And for those of you who are perhaps familiar with it, hopefully I'll be able to share a few new ideas. And if you have some ideas you'd like to share, it would be great to hear from you. And for those of you for whom this is new, I hope that you have a chance to give it a try either in this presentation itself or perhaps afterwards when I share some of the materials that you can have a look at. So also to participate, as you've been probably doing in other sessions here at the conference, feel free to add your comments in the chat box. I see there's already a lovely discussion going on, and people are introducing themselves and saying hello, which is fantastic. From Argentina, welcome Stella, welcome everyone from across Canada. So feel free to post your questions in the chat box throughout the presentation, and I will do my best to answer them as we go along, or perhaps after a couple of slides, I'll stop and answer questions if that is a little bit more convenient. So if there's anything I miss along the way, feel free to just either raise your hand if you like, or feel free to just post your question again. Moving right along for our agenda today. First, we're going to have a look at Padlet, and then we'll switch over to Skitch. And I'll probably spend about 2/3 of the presentation on Padlet and about 1/3 of it on Skitch, just because I tend to use Padlet more in the classroom, and I wanted to focus on different possibilities for teachers in different classroom settings. So I tended to put a little more emphasis on Padlet than on Skitch today. So, but we will cover both, and we'll look at what they are, why you can use them, how you can use them, and how you can get started using them. And hopefully, if all goes well, you'll have a chance to actually try them out as well. So fingers crossed about that. But along the way, if you have any helpful ideas that come up, ways that you think that you could see this really fitting into your teaching context, please feel free to just add your ideas and share them. And I'm sure that your colleagues would be very happy to hear your ideas as well. And again, if I'm not able to address everything, we'll come back to them at the end. I think we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes of a Q&A at the end. All right, so let's get started with Padlet. So Padlet is an online web application. It's formerly known as WallWisher, if some of you have perhaps known it in its previous life. Is anyone familiar with WallWisher before Padlet? Some hands are still raised there. I'm not sure if they just stay that way or, okay, I see some new hands being raised. Fantastic. Okay, so some are, some aren't. I wasn't before. In fact, I just became familiar with it as it was transitioning from WallWisher to Padlet. So Padlet has a few additional functionalities that WallWisher did not. And I think that's just newer iterations as they go along. They tend to add new functionality. So that's really what's happened. But essentially, it is a blank wall where you can post text and images and links, YouTube videos, files, and almost any kind of digital media that you can think of that you'd like to share with your learners. And so before I go any further, I would really like to thank Peggy Irwin. She's a project manager for OSLT curriculum with Colleges Ontario, OSLT being the Occupation-Specific Language Training Program curriculum. And she is the one who first introduced me to Padlet. I went back and checked, it was January of 2012. It's hard to believe it was 3 years ago now. But we used it for the first time in it was a blended course training for instructors, and it was for teaching blended and online courses. So that was the first time we used it, and she used it in a very creative way. And since then, I was sort of inspired to use this tool in a number of different ways in some other courses that I have been teaching in my adult EAP classes. For students who are mainly headed to post-secondary programs after they complete our EAP program at Niagara College. So I found a number of uses for it in my teaching, and in doing a little bit of research, I've found that lots of other teachers have found many uses for integrating this tool into their own teaching as well. So I thought it might be something interesting to share. All right, so what is so special about this simple little web application that allows you to create a blank wall? Well, I'm going to post a little link for you and just give you a quick taste of what Padlet is. It's in this link, there are 3 little mini videos, and one's 5 seconds, one's 11 seconds, and one's 6 seconds. And they will show you just how easy sort of Pallet is to use and what exactly Padlet is. So I'm going to see if I can this for you here in the chat box. So if you would like, you can take a peek. You can click on the link and have a look at the videos. It's a total of 22 seconds. So just to get a little idea of what Padlet is and sort of how easy it is to use. And when you finish, you can just click back on our big blue button window and come back to us. Now, there's no sound to the little video, so you don't have to worry about if your sound's not working. It's just to have a quick peek at what they are and how easy they may be to use. So when you come back, feel free to just, if you'd like to type in the chat box, feel free to do that, or we'll get started in about 20 or 30 seconds after you have a chance to take a peek. Okay, wonderful. Already some ideas using possibilities for Skype students. Absolutely. Great online tool. Wonderful. Okay, it looks like a lot of you have had a chance to have a look at it. So we'll just keep going. So as you can see, when you start, it's essentially just a blank space where you can create and share any kind of materials. And it really is like a little poster board online. And I see Martha mentions that it looks extremely easy, great for low-level students, and that is one of the reasons why I love it so much, is that it really caters to every level of students, from our earliest learners all the way up to advanced learners. So there are some templates for backgrounds and layouts and all kinds of other things. So if the idea of just a blank space may be too simple, or there's a lot that you can do with it, so not to worry. There's some design elements that you can also add to it. You can work with it to get inspired and to get started. So as you can see, you can collaborate and interact with your learners, really of any age or comfort level with technology, and students can collaborate and interact with each other as well, which is why I love it. And I see a question from Marina about asking whether it requires registration, and that's one of my next slides. No, it doesn't. So it doesn't require registration at all to get started, or for our students to post anything. So it really is that simplicity and ease of use for both my students and I guess even for myself that has drawn me back to using this tool again and again. So, and even their slogan, Padlet's slogan is possibly the easiest way to create and collaborate in the world. So it really is supposed to be that easy anyway. But I've been using it with a range of intermediate to advanced level students for the past year or so. Actually, I should say almost 2 years now, all of whom have had varying degrees of comfort level with technology, ranging from, this is the first time I've taken a course, assisted by any technology at all, to the more tech-savvy digital natives that we have in our classes as well. So truly the simplicity in this tool, in the functionalities of the tool, makes it very user-friendly as well, and has made me come back to it again and again. And my real favorite part of this tool versus other tools is that essentially there is no password or login required. So I've used lots of different tools and LMSs throughout the years, and at the password stage, sometimes it can cause some challenges for our students. So to really take away that barrier from the very beginning is quite something, and I found it to be a time saver and something that's quite helpful for the students. So also I wanted to share a couple of other sites. Some of you may already be familiar with some other walls, online walls that you can post information on, just like a bulletin board. So there's Pinterest, there's Glogster, and there's Lino, as some of you may be familiar with. But all of these are are great tools as well that I love, but this Padlet is sort of like a pared down version that can be used for many different purposes. So all of those other tools are wonderful and have their purposes as well, but Padlet I find to be something that works well due to the fact that there's no password or login required. So I'm just going to put those links in there for you in case any of you are unfamiliar with any of those other sites that have the online pinboard or bulletin board functionalities as well. So some of them are quite interesting. And Lino is one that is very similar to Padlet in that it does a lot of the same things as Padlet does. It's a little slightly more complex. You can use sticky notes and it's a little bit more colorful, which I love about it as well, but it's just a little bit different. So perhaps a topic for another day's presentation. So I'm just going to take a peek here at your questions and see what we have here. So definitely great for people who are struggling with technology or it's their first time using it. Let's see, can we see who contributed to the wall? So that's a great question. And that is one of the concerns I had at first was, okay, well, there's no password required. That means no login and perhaps people can post anonymously. So we cannot see exactly who has posted. However, I always, when I'm doing work with the students, I request that they put their names at the bottom of or at the top of their post of whatever they're sharing. So they don't realize perhaps that it's not traceable to their login, or perhaps they may, but to sort of offset that, I always ask them to put their names down there. So of course there's always a drawback. It's a great advantage to have that no login required, but if students are able to post anonymously, that could also create some challenges. So I try to get around that by making sure everyone puts their name in there. I see another question. Does this work well with smartphones? Yes, it does. Well, I'm using an iPhone, and online I was sort of searching. It seems that it is supposed to work well with all platforms. If there are any bugs with any specific models or makes, Padlet does have support sites, so you can have a look on their blog to see if that's an issue at all. But so far, not a single one of my students have reported any issues with using their cell phones or their iPads or their tablets, Android, Google, or otherwise, with it. So, but that's not to say that that couldn't happen. So, okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm just addressing some of your questions. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use it. And that's the next slide, actually. So thank you for that question. Anonymous. Okay, so what can you actually create in a Padlet wall and how can you use it? So this next slide talks a little bit about some ways to use it, and then we'll have a look at how to use it and what you can do to get started using it. So these ideas and suggestions come from Padlet.com, and this was posted even before when it was as Wallwisher. So there's lots of ideas that you can use to create activities for your students. If you'd like to take a closer look at this, there are a number of them here. After I'm going to post the PDF in the forum, so you'll be able to go over it more carefully if you'd like. But I wanted to point out a few of the uses that I find most helpful for my classes and that I've been seeing seem to be quite popular in the use of Padlet. So the first one for me is discussions, and I wonder if I use a little pointer here. Can you see the little pointer if I point at something? Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so discussions, the first one. Posting a question and asking for any kind of response. It could be reading, writing, grammar, to practice any kind of grammar point, for example. Making a wall for a discussion on a topic is something that I've used Padlet for. So I'm going to give you the link now to a Padlet site that will allow you to try it out and use it right away. So as you saw in the little 5-second video, I think at the beginning, to post on a Padlet wall, all you need to do is double click on the wall. So I'm going to share a link with you that will have a couple of questions that are related to the topic today. So how might you use an online wall or bulletin board with your class? And can you think of a discussion topic or question you might ask your students in this format? So I'm going to post this link to the Padlet wall here. And feel free, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to go to the Padlet site. If you have a moment to post an answer or an idea to one of the questions in response to one of the questions, please feel free. If not, you can just play around. It's our little sandbox to get started, so you can actually see how it works. So rather than, showing you, I just sort of showed you at the beginning, I'll give you a chance to give it a try. So you can click on the link that I've just posted and have a peek. And I'll wait a minute or two to give everyone a chance to go and come back. Okay, fantastic. I can see almost about 10 responses on there already, and people just giving it a try, and that's wonderful. Looks like we have a few answers to the questions here. I can share those. So it's an interesting tool to use with my online students, as Stephanie says. It's more interactive, Kim says, different, colorful. Looks interesting. Good for a class forum, absolutely. Oh, and Jennifer, you've posted a wall on your wiki space for your class as well. Absolutely, it's so easy to do that, and I'll show you all how to do that as well. Thank you for sharing that idea. Amazing. We've got probably about, I've lost track now, there's more than 15 or almost 20 comments on the wall as well. So, okay, great. So everyone's given it a try, or many of you have given it a try. Fantastic. So you can see it really is that simple to post your responses, and this would be the experience of a student. So what I would do is I would set up the wall in advance, which I'll show you how you can do that in a few moments. And then I will just, as I've done with you today, share the link either in class, in the LMS, or even via a QR code that you could create for the students if that's something that you like to do as well. So for the most basic features, really students don't need to log in. As an instructor, you can create a wall without even creating an account if you would like as well. But I find I use not a paid version, but I do use the version where I have an account. I'm able to manage the Padlet walls, and I can see what my students are doing. So Anthony asks, is there a login option, and what are the benefits of registering? Absolutely, there's the login option that I use allows me to see all of my Padlet walls and to share them quite easily with the students, so I'm able to manage them and go back and forth. Whereas if you don't log in, you really are just creating a wall, and you can share that link, but after that, you have no connection with Padlet at all. Additionally, there is a paid version, as with just about every tool these days, and that's not something I use, but they have it's called a backpack where you can create classes and that sort of thing too, and organize the students in your classes as well. So if that's something that's of interest to you, you can have a look on the Padlet site as well. So I see that there's a question about editing comments. So you can edit your own comments, but you cannot edit the comments of another user unless you've set up your wall for that purpose in the privacy settings. Actually, I don't think there is one setting that you can allow others to edit others' comments unless you make them also a moderator of the wall. So it is possible, it's just how you set it up. I generally do not allow students to edit others' comments, so they can edit their own, delete their own, but they cannot move around or edit others. And stopping people from editing the page, no, it is open. Once you've shared that link, it is open and available to everyone. So, I mean, it certainly will depend on your teaching context to see if it's something that is going to be appropriate, if you can see any issues there due to the fact that it is open. I can see there might be some concerns. I usually try to use it in a very controlled way, giving specific instructions so students know they post their comment with their name, and that's it. And we sort of move on to the next activity. But you know, it is an open wall. So you are also able to moderate the wall. So when I do post a wall for my students, I always go back and have a look at what people are posting. If there's anything inappropriate, I would delete it. I've never had to do that yet, but you know, that's something that could be done. You, as the owner of the wall, can do that anytime. And absolutely something that you can work with and fit into an activity the way, you know, may most be appropriate for your students. So I also wanted to move on to another topic. Actually, maybe I'll check and look and see about, there are some questions here before I go. So there's another layout, isn't there? Okay, Janice is mentioning about a different type of layout instead of freeform. Yes, there I'm going to show you that as well. The layout that I have chosen is freeform, so everyone can post anywhere on the page. However, yes, you can also select a different type of layout, either a block layout or that more linear layout where all the posts go one after the other. I had initially wanted to use the sort of more linear layout for this purpose. I opted against it because the instructions sort of are pushed to the bottom. So every new post is at the top, and that's why I decided not to use that layout for this particular activity. Anthony asking if anyone's tried to use this on the browser of an older style cell phone. I haven't asked, but it should work. It is a web application. So I've used it with Safari, and actually that's a good question. Maybe if anyone has an older style cell phone lying around, if you want to give it a try and let us know, that would be very interesting. So thank you for your questions. The next idea that I wanted to kind of share was brainstorming on a topic collaboratively. So putting a topic sort of in the center of the page, having students post their comments and thoughts around it. For example, a topic from your textbook, weddings, Canadian weddings, sharing their culture, any of those wonderful activities that bring meaning to your classes that you wanted to elaborate on. You can use Padlet for that as well. And I have another Padlet page to show you and see if you'd like to give that a try. Anthony, you found the support link for the answer to that question. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so this next link that I'm going to share with you is an example of a way that you can collaborate just by having, it could be an idea, a photo, or a question in the center of a page, and then have your students post their responses around that idea as well. So I'm going to give you this link, and I'll give you a moment to have a peek, see if you would like to post a response. The question I've put there are, what are some of your favorite tech tools to use with your students? And to do a little bit of scaffolding, if you would like to not only answer the question by putting the name of a tool, you can do that, but you could also try out adding some multimedia if you haven't done that in the other page yet. And you can click on the little link icon when you double click on the page that shows up with your post, and you can either click copy and paste a link to a video, or you can add a photo from your own any device that you're using and sort of post that on the page to illustrate the tech tool if you would like. So if you want to give it a try, I wanted to see if that's something that might work. And it's an example of how you might be able to use also multimedia and how your students can also collaborate with multimedia in using Padlet as well. So I'll give that a try. I'll give you another minute or so to check that out. So I see a lot of you are there right now as well. A lot of people are posting here on the wall some great questions. I see some people are noting, I think it is Marina, your question about why people are posting their notes on top of each other. And the reason why that's happening is that everyone is posting at the same time. So you may be clicking at some place that is near someone else who's typing at the same time. So once you have completed typing your note, you can move it around. And I find that when I use this freeform style, I tend to go and check the wall, move things around just to make it so that it's easier to see and to make it sometimes a little bit less messy. So I'm moving notes around as we speak, and lots of great ideas being shared on the wall already. Quizlet, Padlet, TED.com, Edmodo. So lots of wonderful ideas being shared already here just by asking the one question. Okay, and I also wanted to address a couple of other questions that have come up. There was one earlier here about using different walls with different classes. Absolutely. I currently teach 2 sections of the same course. Both of them are reading classes. And I find Padlet works very well with these classes. So I will usually create one wall if it's on a specific topic, and then I'll copy that wall and use it simultaneously, but they're 2 separate walls that I can manage separately. So it's lovely to be able to use them both at the same time, and I just post the link for the students in my LMS that I'm using, which is currently Blackboard. But again, you can share that in the classroom. I think there was a question as well about how you might be able to use this if you don't have an LMS, if you're just using it with the students in the classroom. If you have access to iPads or any other mobile technology with your students, you can use it in its mobile format, or you can simply display it up on the screen for the students as well, and they'll be able to see as you work on it together, and you can collaborate and make that wall sort of a bulletin board that you're putting together immediately as well. So those are a few little ideas. A question about the color schemes and changing the design and templates. Yes, absolutely. There are different designs, templates, color schemes. They are limited. The free version is quite limited. I'm not sure with the paid version if there are many others. But what I try to do is if I find that the color layout or text is too limited for what I'm wanting to present to the students, I will create something, even in a Word document, do a quick screenshot and drag it onto the page to add a little bit more color or different size text to the page as well, because that's one of the limitations I'll address a little bit later, is that the design and the text style and size are a little bit limited for this tool as well. So it's not perfect by any means, but the simplicity, I suppose, is something that should take some of those concerns away from the students having to fiddle with colors and that sort of thing, although I love that kind of thing. Okay. So the other way of using it would be reinforcing a teaching topic and practicing. So for example, if you are teaching parts of speech, or you're teaching prefixes, suffixes, anything that you maybe have taught in your class, you could have categories on a page and have students add their ideas or thoughts to it. And I wanted to share a teacher's blog who had kindly shared the blog regarding how she uses it for suffixes and affixes. This is not a page that can be modified, but it's one that you can have a look at if you like. And she has used this with younger learners, but she looks at prefixes, suffixes, and their definitions, and students can post their either their words, or I've actually done a similar activity where I've had students write sentences as well to practice what we've been learning in class. So just another idea. I didn't see the rooster, Jennifer. I'll have to go take a peek on our wall. And it's something certainly that the wall, once it's open, it is open. You can also close the wall to make it so that people cannot post anymore to it. If that's, once your students start to get the hang of it and start to, if you find any inappropriate posts maybe going up on the wall, you could also manage it that way. So I'm just thinking of that type situation. But I'm looking forward to go taking a peek at the rooster. Okay, so I'm going to move on here. We've tried our site already, so I'm very happy to see that you've had a chance to try it. A couple of other ways very quickly that I've used it in a reading class for a timeline of events for a novel study. I've done this collaboratively with the students where I post the wall and I sort of edit it with the students after they've worked in groups to talk about main ideas in a chapter, for example. But you can also have students in an online or a blended course do this at home and add their ideas if you're using the linear structure of the page. And again, I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Another way I tried it is with my level 5, so my advanced AP students. One of the topics in the text was renewable energies. So had the students look up some websites and some infographics related to renewable energies, and they shared their links here on the page. And actually I had brought 4 iPads in the classes and have them work in groups, but all of them had different technologies with them that day. They had their smartphones, some of them had laptops, and some of them had tablets. So I didn't have to have them use the iPads at all. They had their own technology and they were all using their own tech to post to the wall. So I thought that was quite interesting and just speaks to the fact that it's really helpful and useful for multi-platform use for the students. So also I've started a little Pinterest page with some ideas to use Padlet, and I'm not sure if this link will work. You click on it on the slide. Trying to click it, doesn't seem to be clicking there, but I may be able to share it with you another way. There we go. Okay, so I've just posted the link in the chat box to this little Pinterest page that I created, which is essentially a Pinboard as well, but it is a Pinterest page to share ideas about ways that other teachers are using it in education and some in language learning as well. There's a link that I find I really liked about 32 interesting ways to use Padlet. So if we didn't have enough ideas today, there's some more there for you to take a peek at. Oh, and Michelle, thank you for letting me know. I'm glad to know that it did work for you when you clicked on it. Wonderful. Okay, that's great. Okay, have I missed any questions? Desmond, did you notice any questions I might have missed along the way here? I'm sort of trying to keep up, but please forgive me if I've missed anything. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So a few more ideas for language teaching, and I think we have covered some of them already with even with your questions. So creating a skill practice page, a collaborative sharing space of any kind, posting any kind of image for discussion, or video projects. So if your students are creating a number of videos and you wanted to share them on the page, you could have, say 3 videos, and you could have students discuss their thoughts about a specific video, and you can give feedback to your students that way as well. So you might need to sometimes do a little bit of reorganizing on the page, or you may provide feedback in another way, but there are lots of different possibilities. So creating a wall of resources, I've done this before for pronunciation, videos on pronunciation. I wanted to focus on certain segmentals, so I put a number of videos that were on that topic on a Padlet page, and people had them, the students had them all together in one space. A wall for questions, of course, and a vocabulary wall or a glossary that can be created collaboratively by the students. Okay, so a question about switching to linear mode. So switching to linear mode can only be done by the owner of the wall. So when you set up the wall, you would initially set it up in linear mode. However, you can also switch to linear mode. Even now, let's say once you've all posted, I can switch to linear mode and it will line all of the posts up. And you can do that by when you go into set up an account. If you want to do that, that's the next sort of natural progression here, is if you would like to use it further, you can create either a Padlet page or sign up for an account yourself. And at that time, either time actually, whether you have an account or just a page, you can have, you'll see the options here. And by clicking on the little icon on the right-hand side of the page, you'll get all of the options about changing the wallpaper, the layout, which is in this specific area where you'll find the 3 different options of layout. So either linear, the freeform, or the block layout. You'll also have your privacy settings where you can make it either available to those who have a link or public, and you can get notifications if you're wanting to receive notifications every time someone's posted on that wall. Another great feature that I find to be very helpful is the fact that you can change the web address of the page that you've created. So if you click on the address link, this is only if you have an account. You can't do it if you are setting up a page without an account, but you can create your own address, just like I've done here. So you have the address for your account site, so mine, padlet.com/faithmarcel, and then whatever comes after that next slash is your choice as long as it's available. So I put /faith, so Faith Marcel, and then /realize15, so it's easy to remember, and it shortens it a bit as well. So I find that to be quite helpful. And then the newest feature is copy, which I've alluded to a few times, where you're able to copy a specific wall that you created however many times you want and use it with different classes. So when you click on copy, it creates a copy of that wall, and you have the option to either copy it with all of the posts or with no posts, if you're just wanting to copy the layout and background and that sort of thing. So you have those particular options available to you. So really, essentially, those are sort of your main options when you're setting up your Padlet page. If you want to give it a try, you can go to padlet.com and try it out and see how that might be helpful for you. If you have any questions, I can help you with those as well. So I think the other one, the next slide, shows how you can create the URL. So just the example that I gave about, I've used this for another presentation for TESOL as well. So I just use /TESOL. And even with my reading classes, I'll just put Faith Marcel /3B or 3C and reading. So I know that that corresponds to the specific classes that I'm using it with. Okay, so just going to have a peek at some of the questions and comments coming in here. All right. I think I addressed the question about the linear mode now. Someone mentioned that they use Lexipedia. I am not familiar with that tool, so I would love to learn more if someone has ideas about that. A question, can you control the block layout? So set it up for the number of rows and columns you would like. In the free version, unfortunately, you can't. I'm not sure if that's something you can do with the paid version or something that's coming up. What I do tend to do if there's something I want in columns is I will set up a page and I'll put a title at the top and the next one next to it, next to it, and next to it. I've done this with prefixes and suffixes. So I have the prefix pre, and then we'll have the suffix tion, and then I'll have them side by side, and students can post their words just below it. So there are no columns, specific columns, but the page sort of layout becomes such that if you give instructions to the students to post one below the next, then they typically do that. And I do sometimes find that there might be a few that might be a little off, or they weren't sure exactly that they could move it around. And I just go in there and take a peek, and I'll just line everything up. So it's nice and neat. And I think I taught about, we did a review with, I think, was it 15 or so prefixes and suffixes, and it was a great little activity to have the students post words and sentences or sentences just below to practice those for before we did a little quiz or test. Oh, Stella, thank you for sharing your resources on Pearl Trees. I love that site as well, so I'd love to take a peek at that link after also. So I think that is just about all about the functionalities of Padlet. I think more of it is just trying it out, using it, creating an account if you want, creating a page if you don't want to create an account, and just giving it a try. So a few limitations I wanted to mention are each post is limited to 150 words. I've never come up against someone needing to type more than 150 words, but if you used it for a discussion that was a little bit more lengthy and perhaps in a graduate program, you might need to have more than one post, and that's just a matter of double clicking on another post, and so it really, some may find it to be a limitation, but it's just something to be aware of. To manage your walls and accounts required, I mentioned limited formatting options. So if you like a little bit more colorful and more formatting options, that the site Lino is one that has, it's a little bit more colorful in that sense, but I tend to add photos or videos or text from another site, and I'll copy that into the Padlet page, and that gives me enough flexibility. And then the simplicity of these fewer options for the students tends to work well, especially for the intermediate to some of the lower level students. And there's a max file size of 25 megs. That's hopefully you won't need to upload anything larger than that. I've never come up against that issue either, but I just thought I would let you all know that that is one of our limitations. So are there any other questions about Padlet before we move on to Skitch? Okay, so Martha, thank you for sharing your idea, having it as a brainstorming discussion out of class so that students can get connected with each other between classes. Absolutely. The first activity that I did with Padlet was having students in a group get to know each other. So they posted a photo from where they're from and an introduction to themselves. So it could be for that purpose or for something else, but wonderful for having students connect with each other and not have the pressure of having to sign into an account for something. Can you create a URL if you don't have a domain name? If you don't have a domain name in terms of if you haven't signed up, then you cannot create your URL. You'll only get the one that's generated by Padlet. But once you have signed up, you can create your own domain name. Okay, great. Thanks, Martha. Great to know that, yes, for the lower level students, they'd be able to use this without having to log in for sure. And that's definitely one of the big draws for me as well. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to move on to Skitch now. And if there are any other questions as we go along that you think about for Padlet, feel free to let me know. And then we can address those at the end of the presentation. And thank you so much for your questions and for your participation and your posts on the Padlet page so far as well. All right, to switch gears a little bit here, we're going to talk about an application that's not a website this time. It is actually an app. So if you if you want to try it out, this is one you have to search on your app store of your Mac, Google, Android, Windows store in order to download it. But it is free, so you don't feel any pressure to have to download it if you're not wanting to do that. But if you would like to try it out, you can do that on any of your devices. It's available for desktop and for all of your other devices. I was originally just going to do a quick tech presentation about this one here, a 15-30-minute presentation, because this is a little bit more in terms of what to do with the students, a little bit more limited. But I wanted to share this with you just as more of a utilitarian tool for teachers to annotate, create, or modify materials, which I've been using in the past 2 years or so as well, and especially more so for creating materials and annotating materials for the students. So I'm going to share with you a little video that gives you, hopefully, I'll give you a little synopsis of how Skitch works with the iPad, and actually it shows both the use with an iPad and with desktop. So it doesn't give you a lot of information, but it just gives you a little snapshot about how it's used and how it can be used. So this is just a quick little 1-minute video. So I'll let you take a peek at that and come back to us when we're done. Okay, so Desmond's letting me know that we have just a few minutes left and he might have to end the session a bit shorter than expected. No problem. I'm just going to quickly talk about Skitch and actually we'll be done. So not to worry. I just wanted to give that quick little video. So hopefully some of you are back. It was just 1 minute, so we'll keep going. Essentially, Skitch is a tool that allows you to annotate pictures, PDF documents. So that is an example of PDF documents, but you can annotate pictures, web pages, maps. You can draw pictures, and it's a tool that integrates with Evernote if you are using Evernote. So you can annotate pictures and share them with your students on an LMS or just with the link itself that you create. So you can see that you can get it for all of your devices. The link to access it is on this next slide here. So feel free if you'd like to take a peek. It won't download automatically, but it'll give you some information about it. And essentially what I like about Skitch is that it's, again, another tool that is somewhat pared down and that you can get your point across with fewer words, as Skitch says. You can quickly and easily annotate a file or a picture and share it with your students or with other colleagues if you're collaborating on a curriculum development project quite easily. So I use it mostly to modify and create different instructional materials or materials that I'm going to share with my students. For example, here, I've just taken a quick snapshot of the window, the sketch window on my desktop, and I did a quick little annotation of some of the tools that are useful. Showed you can quickly annotate files or images. You can change the color of your annotations. You can put little stickies, draw lines, boxes, change the width of the text, etc. And my very favorite function of this little tool is that you're able to resize or crop images. And I've used various tools to resize images before, just because now they're such wonderful, great quality images. But really, in order to incorporate them in our presentations, we need to resize them. We need to make them smaller. So if you click on this resizer, the icon on the right-hand side allows you to crop the image. So there's a few other ideas here: annotating an image, creating instructional materials, providing feedback, indicating location on an image. I'm going to share this PDF with you, so you'll have all of these different ideas as well. And there's a cheat sheet. There are two cheat sheets, really, that I've included, which are some very kind teachers who have taken Sketch and put a snapshot of what the important functionalities are, and all in one page. So if you'd like to give it a try, you can download it and do that. And my last slide here is just about some of the limitations. There are a few text options only, with a border without, a limited number of colors, and limited shape editing. So those are some of the limitations that I noted. Added some references for you to have a look at once you, if you have some time. I didn't really focus on the research, but I did a bit of research before I prepared this presentation, and some other attributions for the images. So that's it for me. Sorry, I kind of rushed a little bit through the last few slides, but I know it's something you have to play with and try out yourself. So I hope you enjoy that, and thank you. I see Desmond joined us again, so I think that's my time.
All right.
Are there